Fairness is about following the rules. Compassion is about understanding why someone might have broken them. And when those two meet, justice stops being cold and starts becoming human. Life constantly gives us these moments, not in courtrooms, not under marble pillars or in front of robed judges, but in the grocery store, at the office, in our own living rooms. The question is always the same. Do we simply judge, or do we choose to understand? Because those are two very different things. Judging is easy. Understanding takes effort. I've spent a lifetime sitting behind a bench, but the truth is, I've been learning more about life from the people standing in front of me than they've ever learned from me. Each case, each face, each trembling voice telling me their side of the story, those moments are more than legal disputes. They're windows into the human heart. I remember one morning, it was raining outside, the kind of rain that makes the city feel gray and tired. A young man shuffled into court. His shoes were worn so thin they barely looked like shoes. He was clutching a citation for speeding, looking like someone who had already decided the world wasn't going to give him a break. I could see it in his posture, shoulders curled inward, eyes fixed on the floor, like life had been yelling at him for so long that he just stopped looking up. When I asked him what happened, his voice cracked, not because he was scared of me, but because he was scared of what would happen if he had to pay that fine. "Judge," he said, "I wasn't trying to cause trouble. I was rushing to pick up my daughter from daycare before they closed. I didn't want her to sit there thinking I forgot her." Now, the law is the law. Speeding is speeding. Fairness says you break the rule, you pay the price. That's clear and simple. But sitting there looking at him, I saw more than a number on a ticket. I saw a father trying to do right by his child. I asked him, "If I gave you a break today, what would you do with the money you save?" He didn't even pause to think. He smiled for the first time that morning and said, "I'd buy her a warm meal on the way home." That moment stayed with me. It wasn't about traffic violations or fines or court procedures. It was about life, about how sometimes people break small rules not out of carelessness, but out of love, desperation, or responsibility. And it made me ask myself something. If justice can't find room for humanity, then what kind of justice is it? I've seen single mothers who worked double shifts just to put food on the table, then came into court with unpaid parking tickets because they couldn't afford a garage. I've seen immigrants trying to navigate laws written in a language they barely speak. I've seen veterans, proud men and women who serve this country, struggling to find steady work and falling behind on obligations they desperately wanted to meet. Every one of them carried a story, and when you take a moment to listen, really listen, you realize that fairness alone isn't enough. Rules are necessary, but compassion is what makes rules worth following. People sometimes think compassion weakens justice. They think that if you let someone off easy, you're encouraging bad behavior. But I've learned the opposite. When you treat people with understanding, they don't take advantage. They rise to the occasion. They straighten their backs. They want to prove you right for believing in them, and that changes more lives than 1,000 punishments ever could. I remember another man who came before me. He was older, maybe late 50s, with hands calloused from a lifetime of hard work. He had accumulated several small fines over the years, parking violations, late fees. When I asked why he hadn't paid them, he told me he was taking care of his sick wife. Every spare dollar went to medication. "Judge," he said softly, "if I had to choose between paying a ticket and buying her pills, I'd choose her every time, and I'd do it again tomorrow." What do you do with that? You could say the law is the law, and you'd be correct. But you'd also be missing the deeper truth. The law was written to serve people, not to crush them. Justice isn't supposed to be blind to circumstances. Justice is supposed to see clearly enough to know when mercy is the higher law. Every day outside the courtroom, you and I make judgments too. When a coworker misses a deadline, when a stranger cuts us off in traffic, when someone in line at the store is fumbling for change and holding everyone up, we make snap decisions about who they are, lazy, careless, rude. But what if they're carrying a burden we can't see? What if the man cutting you off is racing to a hospital? What if the person fumbling for change hasn't eaten all day? What if the coworker who missed the deadline is up all night caring for a sick child? Fairness says, treat everyone the same. Compassion says, understand why they might be different today. And when you bring those two together, you don't weaken justice. You strengthen humanity. I've often told people that my courtroom isn't just about legal decisions. It's about life decisions. Every case is an opportunity to say, I see you. You matter. Your story matters. And when people feel seen, they change. I've watched defendants walk out of my courtroom with their heads higher, not because they got away with something, but because someone believed they were worth understanding. One day, a young mother came in with her little boy, no more than 5 years old. She was facing fines she couldn't pay. I asked the boy what he wanted to be when he grew up. He said, "I want to be a police officer." I smiled and said, "Well, young man, I have a very important job for you. I need your help deciding what to do about your mom's tickets." His eyes lit up. He thought about it and then said, "Judge, can you give her a break? She's a good mom." That moment reminded me that even a child understands compassion instinctively. We're all born with it. We just forget as we grow older and start thinking only in terms of rules. Sometimes people ask me if I ever worry about being too lenient. I tell them this: showing mercy doesn't mean you abandon fairness. It means you look at the whole picture. You still respect the law. You still value responsibility. But you also remember that life is complicated, people are complicated, and you can guide them toward doing right without crushing them under the weight of a mistake. So what does this mean for all of us outside the courtroom? It means the next time you're tempted to snap at someone, take a breath. Ask yourself, what's their story? Because everyone has one. Some are just too proud, too tired, or too scared to tell it. And when you take that extra second to consider their humanity, you don't just make their day better. You make yourself better. The truth is, compassion doesn't cost us anything, but it pays back more than we can imagine. A kind word to a struggling coworker. Patience with someone who's learning. Forgiveness when someone makes an honest mistake. These things build trust, community, and hope. They turn rules into guidance instead of chains. If you think about the moments that have mattered most in your life, I'd bet they weren't moments when someone treated you strictly by the book. They were moments when someone showed you grace. A teacher who believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself. A boss who gave you a second chance after a misstep. A friend who stuck by you when you were at your lowest. Those moments stay with you forever, and you have the power to create those moments for others every single day. Fairness enforces the rules. Compassion remembers the people behind them. And when you combine the two, you create wisdom. You create a justice that doesn't just punish mistakes, but heals lives. So, my challenge to you is simple. Be fair? Yes. But don't stop there. Be compassionate. See the person, not just the problem. Hear the story, not just the excuse. Because when fairness meets compassion, humanity wins. And when humanity wins, we all do.
The matter is dismissed. I'm going to dismiss it.
Case is dismissed.